Power never lasts forever. Even the mightiest empires, the ones that claim to be eternal, eventually crumble. In Foundation Season 3, we finally see the cracks spreading across the great Cleonic Empire, while a new force, the Foundation, steps out of the shadows to shape the destiny of humanity. Season 3 of Foundation doesn't waste time reminding us of the central struggle at the heart of this story. A galaxy ruled by a powerful but fragile empire, and a small rising movement called the Foundation, which carries the vision of Hari Seldon. These two forces stand at opposite ends of history. One clings to its throne, terrified of losing control. The other plants seeds for a future where knowledge, science, and belief in human progress become stronger than fear or tyranny. As we reach the ending of this season, everything we've seen so far builds to one central idea. The fall of empire is no longer just a theory, it's happening right before our eyes. And in its place, something new begins to rise. This is not just a story about spaceships, dynasties, or war. It's about the tides of history and how one vision of the future can outlive kings, armies, and even centuries of control. Throughout Season 3, the story has balanced two parallel journeys. On one side, we've watched the Cleonic dynasty struggle to maintain its power. For generations, the clones of Cleon ruled as if they were gods, projecting strength and stability. But like any system built on fear, cracks started forming. Betrayals inside the palace, uprisings across the stars, and the constant doubt about the very idea of eternal rule brought their empire closer to collapse. By the time we reach the finale, the once unshakable image of empire has been shattered. On the other side, the Foundation has grown from being a small group of thinkers on the edge of the galaxy into a true force of change. Guided by the plan of Hari Seldon, but also challenged by the unpredictability of human nature, the Foundation finds itself stepping into the role it was meant to play, the guardian of civilization's future. What once looked like a desperate dream now feels like the only path forward for humanity. The brilliance of Foundation Season 3 is how it weaves these two arcs together. It's not just about the fall of one power and the rise of another. It's about how history always shifts between chaos and order, destruction and renewal. The empire does not fall because of one single event, but because of years of arrogance, weakness, and denial. Likewise, the Foundation doesn't rise overnight. It grows slowly, with ideas spreading from one world to another, until the moment comes when belief in the future is stronger than loyalty to the past. By the end of Season 3, we are left at a crossroads. The old world is collapsing. The new world is only beginning to take shape. And the story makes it clear that while the fall of empire might feel like an ending, it's actually just the opening act in Hari Seldon's grand plan for humanity. The real question now is not whether empire will survive, it's already doomed. The real question is, can the Foundation live up to the promise it carries? This is the stage set for the finale. The rise and fall of civilizations. The death of one order and the birth of another. A struggle that feels as old as history itself, yet is told through the lens of galaxies, dynasties, and visions of the far future. The fall of the Cleonic Empire in Foundation Season 3 is not a sudden collapse. It's a slow, painful unraveling, like a mighty statue cracking from within until it finally topples. For centuries, the genetic dynasty of Cleon projected itself as unbreakable. The empire claimed to be eternal, an unchanging symbol of stability that could outlast wars, revolutions, and time itself. But what Season 3 makes clear is that nothing built on fear, pride, and illusion can last forever. The empire doesn't collapse because of one enemy, it collapses because it can no longer hold itself together. The seeds of destruction were planted long ago. The idea of cloning the same ruler endlessly created a sense of false immortality, but it also created weakness. Each Cleon was a copy of the one before, carrying the same flaws, the same arrogance, and the same blindness to change. Instead of adapting, they clung to rituals. Instead of listening, they silenced dissent. By the time Season 3 begins, the cracks in their rule are too wide to ignore. Rival powers no longer tremble at the name of empire. Rebellion spread across the outer systems. And the people who once believed in the promise of order now see only oppression and decay. What makes the fall so powerful is how personal it becomes. Inside the palace, the once united dynasty fractures. Brothers turn against brothers. Advisors whisper betrayal. Every decision made out of fear only accelerates their downfall. Instead of facing reality, the empire lashes out, desperate to crush every challenge. But violence and fear only deepen the chaos. The more they fight to keep control, the faster control slips away. Season 3 shows us that empires don't just collapse because of enemies, they collapse because of themselves. The Cleonic rulers cannot imagine a galaxy without their throne. They mistake obedience for loyalty, ritual for truth, and repetition for destiny. Their downfall is not caused by one battle or one leader, but by centuries of denial. The brilliance of the story lies in how this decline mirrors the real history of fallen empires. Rome, Byzantium, countless others. History does not repeat word for word, but it rhymes. The Cleonic Empire falls the same way. All empires do not with sudden destruction, but with a slow bleeding of power, trust, and belief. The finale makes this downfall unforgettable. The once mighty empire is not destroyed by an outside conqueror, but undone from the inside. Their armies grow weaker, their grip on the stars falters, and their reputation, once a weapon of fear, becomes a shadow of its former self. Every act of desperation only proves Hari Seldon's prophecy true: the empire cannot last. Its fall is inevitable, but perhaps the most striking detail is the symbolism. For so long, the Cleonic dynasty insisted it was eternal, immortal, the very center of human civilization. Watching it fall reminds us of the deeper truth at the heart of foundation: no power, no matter how strong, can stand against the tides of history. The collapse of empire is not just a political shift, it is the death of an idea. The myth of eternal rule shatters, leaving behind only fragments of power and fear. And in those fragments, something else begins to grow. The fall of empire clears the stage for the rise of a new order. The foundation does not defeat empire in a single battle. Instead, it outlasts it. Where empire clings to the past, the foundation embraces the future. Where empire demands worship, the foundation inspires belief. The fall is tragic, but it is also necessary, because only through destruction can renewal begin. The ending of Season 3 leaves no doubt. The Cleonic Empire is broken. Its age of dominance is over. The once eternal dynasty is just another chapter in history's endless cycle of rise and fall. And while its ashes still smolder, another power steps forward, ready to shape the galaxy in its image. The fall of empire is complete, but the story is only half told. What comes next is the rise of the foundation, ***. Out of the ashes of empire's collapse rises a force that is far more powerful than any throne or crown. The foundation. What makes their rise so compelling in Foundation Season 3 is that it doesn't come from brute strength, endless armies, or fear. Instead, it comes from belief, knowledge, and the courage to imagine a different future. The Foundation's power is not in weapons but in ideas. And once an idea takes root in the human heart, no empire, no matter how mighty, can stop it. The Foundation begins as a fragile outpost, an experiment guided by Hari Seldon's grand plan. But Season 3 shows us that this small spark grows into a flame, one bright enough to pierce through centuries of darkness. Unlike the Cleonic dynasty, which clings to the illusion of immortality, the Foundation is built on change. It understands that history is not static. It is alive, shifting, unpredictable. And it is through this flexibility that the Foundation finds its strength. 1. Of the most fascinating parts of Season 3 is how the Foundation wins not by destroying the Empire, but by outlasting it. While the Cleons are trapped in their cycle of repetition, the Foundation spreads its influence quietly, planet by planet. Through science, religion, and a new sense of destiny, they create a movement that cannot be crushed by armies. You can conquer a city, but you cannot conquer belief. You can burn books, but you cannot erase ideas once they are spoken and shared. This is the truth that the Foundation understands, and the Empire never could. Hari Seldon's presence continues to loom large. Even as a memory, a vision, or a recording, his voice carries weight. He represents the long game, the understanding that history bends not, because of one person, but because of the collective will of humanity. The Seldon plan is not perfect, but it gives the Foundation purpose. It gives them a reason to endure, even when survival seems impossible. And what we see by the end of Season 3 is the power of that endurance. The Foundation doesn't just survive, it begins to shape the galaxy itself. Characters like Gal and Salver play critical roles in making this rise feel human. Their struggles remind us that the Foundation is not just a theory written in mathematics, it is people, flesh and blood, fighting for something greater than themselves. Every decision, every sacrifice, builds toward the moment when the Foundation can finally step out of the shadows and declare itself as the future. The strength of the Foundation is not in perfection, but in persistence. They stumble, they doubt, they fight among themselves, but they never stop moving forward. The rise of the Foundation also shows us the deeper theme of this story, that true power comes not from ruling through fear, but from inspiring belief. The Empire demanded obedience, but the Foundation offers hope. The Empire claimed to be eternal, but the Foundation shows that even eternity can be reimagined. For the people living under tyranny, the Foundation is not just a rebellion, it is a promise. A promise that history does not have to repeat itself, that humanity can rise above its cycles of oppression, and that a brighter future is possible. What makes their rise even more powerful is that it happens at the exact moment the galaxy needs it most. As the Empire falls apart, chaos spreads. Worlds are lost, leaders are gone, and the old order is crumbling into dust. In this chaos, the Foundation steps forward with clarity, with direction, with vision. While the Empire collapses under its weight, the Foundation grows stronger because it is light enough to adapt, flexible enough to change, and bold enough to lead. By the finale of Season 3, the contrast is unmistakable. The Empire is broken, hollow, and bleeding power. The Foundation, once dismissed as a minor nuisance, stands as the only force capable of guiding humanity through the storm. Their rise is not just political, it is spiritual, cultural, and historical. They embody the cycle of renewal, the idea that even in the darkest times, something new can be born, and that is what makes the ending of Season 3 so striking. The Foundation does not win because they are stronger than the Empire. They win because they are different. They represent the next chapter of history, while the Empire is a relic of the past. Their rise is not only a victory, it is destiny. The galaxy no longer looks to the Cleonic dynasty for guidance. It looks to the Foundation. The stage is set. The fall of Empire is complete. The rise of Foundation has begun. And as Hari Seldon predicted, this is only the first step in shaping the future of humanity, a future that will span centuries, struggle, and hope. The ending of Foundation. Season 3 is more than a conclusion to a season of television, it's a turning point in the history of the galaxy. What we see is not just the fall of a dynasty or the rise of a movement, but the shift of an entire civilization from one age into another. It is the moment when Hari Seldon's prophecy, long treated as a myth or a warning, becomes real. The galaxy has stepped into the era of crisis, and the Foundation stands as the only hope to guide humanity through the storm. The fall of the Cleonic Empire is explained not as a single dramatic blow, but as the final consequence of centuries of weakness. In the closing episodes, every thread of decay becomes clear. The betrayal within the palace, the failed wars to maintain control, the loss of faith in the idea of eternal rule. The Empire doesn't end with fire and glory, it ends with silence. With fear, with the realization that the galaxy no longer believes in it. This is the true meaning of its fall, not that it was defeated in battle, but that it lost the one thing no ruler can live without legitimacy. At the same time, the Foundation's rise is not shown as a flawless triumph, but as the birth of something new and fragile. The ending reminds us that the Foundation is not yet invincible. It still faces dangers, divisions, and enemies. But what makes its rise undeniable is the shift in human hearts. The people of the galaxy, tired of fear and oppression, now turn to the Foundation as a source of guidance and hope. This is the moment when an idea becomes stronger than an empire. Hari Seldon's plan, once dismissed as fantasy, now feels like destiny. The symbolism of the finale is powerful. On one side, we have the ruins of empire, a dynasty built on the illusion of eternal control, now crumbling into dust. On the other, we have the foundation, built not on repetition but on adaptation, stepping forward into history with courage. The contrast is clear. Empire represents the past, while foundation represents the future. The fall and rise are not just political events, they are metaphors for the cycles of history itself. Civilizations rise, they fall, and from their ashes, new orders emerge. This is the eternal rhythm of human progress. Season 3's ending also leaves us with haunting questions about freedom, destiny, and choice. Hari Seldon's plan has always suggested that history can be predicted, that the fall of empire and the rise of foundation are inevitable. But as we watch characters like Gal and Salver struggle with their roles, the story hints at something deeper. Even within destiny, there is room for choice. Even within a grand design, individuals still matter. The future may be written, but how we walk into it is still up to us. And then there are the cliffhangers. Season 3 doesn't tie every thread neatly, it leaves doors open. The second foundation, hidden in the shadows, looms as the next great mystery. Who will control the future? Will the foundation remain united, or will its own divisions tear it apart? Will the galaxy embrace the promise of science and belief, or will fear drag it back into chaos? The ending is not final, it is a promise of greater struggles to come. What does this mean for the future of Foundation? It means that the fall of empire is not the end of the story, it is only the beginning. Hari Seldon predicted centuries of darkness, but also the possibility of rebuilding civilization in a fraction of the time. Season 3 ends at the threshold of that journey. The empire has fallen, the foundation has risen, but the true test is still ahead. Can this fragile new order survive the storms to come? Can it protect humanity from itself? In the final moments of Season 3, we understand the scale of what lies ahead. This is no longer the story of one dynasty or one planet. It is the story of the galaxy itself, of billions of lives, of centuries of struggle, of the eternal clash between chaos and order. The empire has fallen. The foundation has risen. And the future of humanity hangs in the balance. The meaning of the ending is clear. History cannot be stopped. It can be guided, it can be shaped, but it cannot be frozen in place. The Cleons tried to freeze history and they fell. The foundation accepts the flow of history, and so it rises. This is not just the end of a season, it is the birth of a new age. So, when we ask what the ending of Foundation, Season 3 really means, the answer is simple, but profound. The death of one world and the birth of another. The fall of an empire and the rise of a foundation. And in that cycle, the story of humanity continues fragile, uncertain, but unstoppable.